Have you ever wondered how close you've come to danger without even realizing it? At Shivering Vault, we take you there, one story at a time. But before you drift off, consider liking this video, commenting where you're watching from and at what time, and subscribing to keep these chilling stories coming. Now, let's dive into these unsettling tales. My name's Evan. I'm 19. Dropped out of college last fall. Wasn't really for me. I didn't flunk out or anything like that. It just wasn't working. I was broke, tired of sitting in classes I didn't care about, and my head wasn't in the right place. After I left, I moved in with my uncle in a small town out in West Texas. He's a good guy, keeps to himself, doesn't ask too many questions. He helped me get back on my feet, and after a couple weeks, I got a night shift job at this rundown gas station on the edge of Highway 82. It's one of those places you drive past without thinking twice. Dusty signs, flickering neon lights, and only two pumps that still work. It's usually quiet. The regulars are old guys with beat-up trucks, truckers stopping for coffee and smokes, and sometimes drunk teenagers coming back from parties. I mostly just stock shelves, wipe down counters, and try to keep myself awake between midnight and 6. I'd been working there about 3 weeks when this happened. It was a Thursday night, little after 1 a.m. I remember because I had just finished restocking the energy drinks and was back behind the counter scrolling through my phone, trying to stay awake. The hum of the coolers in the back mixed with that low buzzing sound from the neon open sign in the window. Outside, the road was empty, like it always is at that time. You could see headlights coming a mile down that highway, but it was pitch black in both directions. Then I saw headlights pull into the lot. No big deal. Happens all the time. I glanced up, expecting someone to pull up to the pump, but this truck, it didn't stop. It was this older, beat-up pickup. Big dent on the front passenger side. One of the headlights looked busted, or just dimmer than the other. Instead of pulling in for gas, the truck creeped slowly across the lot, passing right in front of the big glass window of the store. Not fast, not like someone just pulling through. Slow, like walking pace. The kind of slow where you feel like they're trying to see inside. I figured maybe he was looking for someone. Maybe just lost or turning around. But something about it felt off. The driver never looked away from the store. I couldn't see his face real well, but I could tell he was watching. Just sitting behind the wheel, staring straight ahead. Then he circled around, came back the other direction. Now I was starting to get that weird tight feeling in my chest. I didn't move, just watched as he made another slow pass. Again, he didn't stop, didn't roll down a window, just stared. I walked out from behind the counter and peeked through the window, trying not to look obvious. The truck rolled to the far end of the lot and turned back again. Third time around, the headlights went off, just clicked off. No engine revving, no horn, just silence. The only light now was from the buzzing gas station signs and that one flickering street lamp near the back corner of the lot. He parked near the edge of the light, far enough back that I couldn't see much. Just the faint outline of the truck, like a shadow with angles. And he just sat there. I went back behind the counter and sat down on the stool, but I couldn't stop watching the window. Something in me was telling me to lock the doors, but I didn't want to seem paranoid or stupid. It's Texas. People do weird things, and I've had more than one drunk guy pull into the lot, sleep it off for an hour, and then drive off. But this didn't feel like that. After about 5 minutes of just sitting there, the truck door creaked open. I could barely hear it, but the silence made everything louder. A guy stepped out. He was tall, wore this black hoodie with the hood pulled up, jeans, boots. His face was mostly in shadow, but from what I could tell, he had something covering his lower face, like a scarf or maybe even a bandana. I don't know. I just remember I couldn't see his mouth. He started walking toward the store. Not running, not fast, just this slow, steady pace, like he already knew what he was going to do and didn't need to rush. I didn't hesitate anymore. I got up, hit the lock switch on the doors. It made this loud clunk sound that echoed in the empty store. He kept walking, got to the door, grabbed the handle. It didn't open. He tugged once, twice, then just stopped. He didn't bang on it, didn't yell, didn't even try to talk. He just stood there, looking in. I don't know how long he stood there. Felt like forever. I didn't move. I was crouched behind the counter now, phone in my hand, barely breathing. I remember feeling the cold sweat on my back soaking through my shirt. My heart was pounding so hard. I texted my uncle first, just instinct, I guess. Just said, "Some guys at the store, acting weird, not coming in, just watching." He didn't answer, probably asleep. That's when I called the sheriff's office. I tried to sound calm, so I didn't want to seem like I was overreacting. Said something like, "Hey, this is Evan at the gas station on 82. There's a guy out here acting suspicious, kind of creeping around. Just standing outside the doors. Might want to send someone to check it out." The dispatcher sounded bored at first. Probably gets dumb calls all the time. But when I told her the guy had circled the store a few times, turned off his lights, and walked up with his face half covered, her voice changed, got quieter, more serious. She said she'd send someone out right away and to stay inside. Keep the doors locked. I told her I already had. While I was on the phone, I peeked over the counter again. He was still there, just standing still, hands in his pockets now. His eyes never left the glass. I couldn't see them clearly, but I knew he was staring straight through at me. The lights inside the store reflected off the glass, so it was probably harder for him to see me than it was for me to see him. But still, it felt like he was looking right into me. Then, after maybe another minute, he turned around slowly and walked back to the truck. Didn't run, didn't hurry, just strolled back. Calm. He got in. The engine never turned off, which meant it had been idling the whole time. But he didn't drive off either. He just stayed there. Parked. Lights off. Engine humming. I crouched there, phone still in my hand, not even sure what I was supposed to do. Should I hide in the back? Lock myself in the storage room? Or just wait? I chose to wait. Minutes passed. Each one felt like a lifetime. I kept glancing at the clock on the register, 1:17, 1:23, 1:29. Then I saw flashing lights. A county sheriff's cruiser pulled in, lights spinning but siren off. The truck immediately backed up fast and peeled out, tires screaming against the concrete. The cop gunned it right after him. They were gone within seconds, swallowed up by the darkness of the highway. It was dead quiet again, just the buzz of the lights and the low hum of the coolers. I stayed locked in for a while, probably another hour, just pacing the store, looking out the windows, checking my phone. Still no text back from my uncle. Eventually, around 3 a.m., another sheriff's car pulled up. This one just parked. A deputy stepped out, older guy with a gut and a mustache. Looked like he'd been doing this job a long time. He came up to the door, knocked gently, and I unlocked it. "You all right?" he asked. I nodded, but I didn't really know if I was. I felt like my insides had been chewed up. He said, "We got him." Found him about 12 miles out, ditched the truck in a ditch, tried to run through a field, but we caught him. I just kind of stood there, not sure what to say. Then he said, "You're lucky, son. That guy wasn't just looking to buy a soda." I asked what he meant, and he looked me in the eye, real serious. He hit a gas station 2 towns over last week. Walked in, pulled a sawed-off from under his coat, shot the clerk in the leg, stole a few $100, and vanished. We'd been looking for him ever since. I felt cold all over. Like actual cold, not just fear. He had a shotgun under the seat. Duct tape and zip ties in the back of the truck. You locking those doors probably saved your life. I nodded again. My mouth was dry. I thanked him, and he left. The rest of the shift was quiet. I didn't even leave the counter. Just sat on the stool, hands shaking every now and then, jumping at every car that drove by. Around 6 a.m., the sky started to turn this dull orange-gray. The sun was crawling up over the flat Texas horizon, real slow, like it didn't want to come up at all. I watched it rise through the front window, thinking how easy it would have been for things to go different. If I'd left the doors unlocked, if I'd been in the back when he walked in, if I hadn't noticed him circling. That guy didn't say a single word to me. Not one. I never worked another night shift after that. Told the manager I was done. Took day shifts for a while, then quit completely. Moved out of my uncle's and got a warehouse job closer to Dallas, but I still see his face sometimes. Not all of it. Just that hood, that slow walk, the way he stood at the glass with his hands in his pockets, like he had all the time in the world. This happened a few months ago, but I'm still not really over it. I still check the locks 3 times before bed. I don't even sleep in my bedroom anymore. I moved my mattress into the living room where there are fewer windows. Anyway, my name's Rachel. I'm 28. I live alone in this one-bedroom apartment in Denton, Texas. It's not a bad neighborhood exactly, but it's not fancy either. The apartment itself is small, like 600 square feet or so. Living room, kitchen off to the side, narrow hallway with a tiny bathroom, and the bedroom at the end. The rent was cheap, and I liked that it was quiet. Most of the tenants are older or keep to themselves. I work evenings at a call center that deals with insurance claims, so I usually don't get home until around 11:30 or midnight. My apartment faces this narrow alley behind the building. It's not really an alley you'd walk through unless you lived there. It's more like a space between buildings with dumpsters and those yellow security lights that flicker more than they work. Sometimes there's trash scattered around from raccoons or cats. There's one light directly across from my bedroom window, but it barely lights anything. At night, it just casts these long shadows that make everything look kind of warped and off. I've always liked the nighttime. I find it kind of calming. I'd usually get home, take a shower, then sit on the edge of my bed and scroll my phone or watch a show for a bit. It was my little routine. I never really thought much about the alley. At most, I'd hear a drunk guy wandering back there or maybe the neighbor's dog barking, but nothing that ever made me feel unsafe. That changed about 2 months ago. I remember the first time I saw him, it was a Tuesday night. I had just come home from work. I threw my bag on the couch, heated up some leftover Thai food, and was sitting on my bed with the window open a crack to let in the breeze. It was almost 2 a.m. when I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate footsteps crunching on the gravel. At first, I didn't think anything of it. There's a bar a few blocks over, and sometimes people wander through the alley as a shortcut. But the steps stopped, right in front of my window. I couldn't see much because the blinds were drawn, but I got this weird feeling, like someone was standing there, facing me. I peeked through the blinds just a little. There was a shadow, tall, maybe 6 feet or so. He didn't move, just stood there. I could barely make out his outline, but the way he was positioned, it was like he knew exactly where my window was. I told myself maybe he was peeing against the wall or just taking a break from walking, but something about it felt off. I watched for about a minute, then he walked off. No rush, just turned and disappeared deeper into the alley. The next night, same time, almost exactly 2 a.m., the footsteps came back. This time, I didn't open the blinds. I just sat there frozen. He stopped in the same spot, didn't move, just stood there. I didn't sleep that night. It happened again the next night, and the night after that, that's when I stopped opening the blinds at night altogether. I started keeping them closed even when I was home. It made me feel a little safer, like he couldn't see me if I couldn't see him, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why was he coming back? Why always at the same time? Was it coincidence? Was it just some weirdo who liked that alley? I don't know. It sounds dumb writing it out now. Like I should have called the cops right then. But you tell yourself stuff like he's probably just homeless or he's not doing anything illegal. You don't want to overreact. Still, I started sleeping with a light on, just a little lamp on my nightstand. I told myself it was because I didn't want to stub my toe in the dark if I had to pee in the middle of the night, but really, I was scared. Then one night, I broke my rule. I couldn't sleep. It was after 2 a.m. and I hadn't heard anything. No footsteps. Nothing. I figured maybe he'd stopped. I got up and, without really thinking, I peeked through the blinds, and he was there. But this time, he was closer, right up against the wall. His face, God, I can't forget his face. It was pale, really pale, like no color at all. His eyes were wide open, just blank, like he wasn't really seeing anything, or maybe he was seeing too much. He didn't blink. He just looked at me, right at me, through the slats. I jumped back so hard I knocked over the lamp. I didn't sleep at all after that. Just sat on my bed with a kitchen knife in my lap, every light in the apartment on. The next morning, I called the apartment manager. His name's Jeff. He's this guy in his late 40s, always smells like cigarettes. I told him everything about the guy in the alley, the way he kept coming back, how he stared right at me. Jeff kind of shrugged and said, "The alley's not technically our property. That's the city's, and the security cameras don't reach that far. If he's not breaking into anything, I can't really do much." I asked him if other tenants had reported seeing someone, and he said no. No one else had complained. That made me feel worse. Like I was the only one seeing him. Like maybe he was only coming for me. After Jeff brushed me off, I started second-guessing everything. Like, maybe I'd imagined how intense it really was. Maybe he wasn't staring at me. Maybe the window reflection played tricks on my mind, but that feeling in my gut, that pit in my stomach, that wasn't in my head. The next few days, I kept the windows sealed shut. I even nailed down the corners of the blinds so they wouldn't move. I didn't open them during the day either. I wanted zero chance of anyone seeing inside. I also moved a chair into my bedroom and started sleeping there instead of in bed. It sounds stupid, I know. But the idea of sleeping directly under that window felt exposed. Like he'd know. Like he'd be out there waiting. I bought one of those door jams on Amazon and a wedge alarm. I don't have a gun or anything. I don't even like having knives out unless I'm cooking. But I started keeping the biggest one from my kitchen drawer under my pillow. I told myself it was just until things settled down. But they didn't. They got worse. It was a Thursday night when I heard it. I had just started dozing off on the chair with a blanket around me. It was about 2:10 a.m. I had fallen asleep watching old forensic crime shows with the TV on low, just background noise to drown out the silence. Then I heard it. This soft, dragging noise. I sat up, turned off the TV, and held my breath. It was coming from the window, directly outside, right next to where my head had been. It didn't sound like metal. It sounded like fingernails, or maybe something being dragged across the glass in slow, deliberate lines. I didn't move. I just stared at the window like it might explode. The scraping stopped. Then, a tap. Just once. I couldn't breathe. I mean that literally. I was holding my breath so tight my chest started to ache. I didn't even think to call the police at that moment. I was too scared to even reach for my phone. I sat like that for over 30 minutes, just staring. But there was nothing. No more noise, no footsteps, no face. Eventually, I called 911. They sent an officer to patrol the alley, but by the time he got there, of course, there was no one. I don't know what I expected, but I felt dumb even describing it. There was scraping? Yeah, that went over real well. The cop was polite enough, but he had that look in his eyes. This chick's just paranoid look. He said there was no sign of forced entry, no footprints, and nothing suspicious. He advised me to keep the windows locked and maybe invest in a curtain with blackout lining. 2 nights later, I heard the whisper. I had just fallen asleep on the couch. I'd given up on the bedroom by then. Every little creak and groan of that side of the apartment made my skin crawl. I felt safer in the living room, farther from the alley, even if just by a few walls. I woke up around 3:20 a.m. because I had to pee. Everything was dead silent. I kept the hallway light on so the living room was dim, but not pitch black. I stood up, stretched, and I swear to God, as I passed the front door, I heard it. A whisper, barely audible, muffled through the door like someone was just outside. Rachel. I froze. My hand was on the bathroom door. I didn't move. I thought maybe I imagined it, but then, click, the doorknob turned, only a little. Just a slight jiggle. It was locked. I know it was locked. I check it 3 times before bed, religiously, but someone was trying it. Someone was standing right outside my door. I backed away, phone in hand, and whispered 911. This time, the cops came quick. I live near a university, so they're used to late-night calls. 2 officers showed up and did a full walk-around. One of them, a younger guy with a buzz cut, took it more seriously than the others had before. He kept asking, "Have you had problems with anyone? Exes? Coworkers?" I didn't. I still don't. I don't date, and I barely socialize outside of work. They didn't find anyone. Again. But this time, they did something different. They asked the apartment manager for access to the building's shared spaces. Laundry room. Storage. Maintenance access. I didn't know there even was a basement. Apparently, there's a locked utility door on the side of the complex that leads to a crawl space where they keep tools and old HVAC stuff. I'd never seen anyone go in or out of it, but it was technically still part of the building. One of the officers came back after 10 minutes of searching. His face was tight. He asked if I could step outside with the other officer while they cleared something. I didn't argue. There was a man living down there, behind a false wall, hidden behind some loose HVAC panels. The space wasn't even supposed to be accessible, just a mess of wiring and old pipes, but he'd made a little nook for himself. There was a sleeping bag, empty food wrappers, a flashlight, and a bag. Inside the bag were women's clothes. None of them mine, but sizes that could have fit me. Panties, a hoodie that looked like something I owned, a pair of beat-up sneakers, and photos. Photos of me, not in my apartment, but through the windows, from outside, from across the alley, from angles I couldn't even figure out, maybe from behind the trash bins or down near the utility ladder that led to the fire escape. He'd been watching me. For how long, I don't know. But some of the pictures were older. Weeks, maybe months. They said he didn't fight when they found him. He didn't even speak. Just sat there on the floor, pale and malnourished, like he'd been living like a rat under the building. I later found out his name. I won't say it here. He was a registered offender, had a history of stalking. He was arrested a few years back for breaking into a woman's house in Fort Worth and hiding in her attic. He had been released on parole. I don't even want to think about what would have happened if I hadn't called that night. I didn't stay in that apartment another night. I packed 2 bags and went to stay with a friend. I broke my lease the next week. I don't care about the fees. I couldn't even look at the alley again without feeling sick. I still have nightmares. I sleep with lights on. I wake up thinking I hear footsteps outside my window, even though I moved to a 2nd floor unit in a brand new complex with no alley. The scariest thing isn't that he was watching me. It's that he knew everything about my schedule. When I got home, when I went to sleep, when I was most vulnerable, he'd been living underneath me for weeks, and I never even knew. I was moving across the country for a new job, just me, my car, and everything I could fit into it. I'd spent 12 hours driving that day, cutting across Texas. If you've ever done that drive, you know how endless it feels. Long, flat stretches of highway, the kind of empty that starts to get to your head. By the time I hit East Texas, just past Nacogdoches, I was beyond exhausted. It was already past 10 p.m. and my legs were starting to cramp. I knew I couldn't push through the night safely, so I figured I'd find a place to crash and finish the drive in the morning. I passed a few exits, without anything, then finally saw a little faded blue sign that said Motel 1 mile. No chain branding or anything, just one of those mom and pop places that probably hadn't been updated since the early 2000s. I almost kept going, but honestly, I was so tired my eyes were doing that thing where they go out of focus while you're still driving. So I took the exit and pulled in. The place was quiet. Not spooky at first, just empty. One long row of single-story rooms, fluorescent lights flickering above the office sign, a soda machine next to a rusted-out ice dispenser. I only saw one other car in the lot, an old white sedan parked near the far end. No sound except the buzz of the sign and the distant hum of a semi passing on the highway. Inside the front office, it smelled faintly like cigarettes and lemon cleaner. A man behind the counter looked up from a little black and white TV. He was maybe in his late 50s, thinning gray hair, kind of pudgy, with this expression like I'd interrupted him, but he was going to be polite about it. "Just one for the night?" he asked. I nodded. $39.95, he said, sliding a key across the counter. An actual key, not a card. Room 7, end of the row. Wi-Fi's free but spotty. Heat works better than the AC. You need anything, I'll be here till midnight. He didn't ask for ID or anything, which I thought was a little weird, but I didn't question it at the time. I just wanted to sleep. I parked in front of room 7. The lot was cracked in places, weeds growing up through the concrete. The air was sticky and humid, smelled like pine and damp pavement. The woods loomed right behind the building. Tall, dark pines, thick and quiet. The kind of woods that don't make noise, no crickets, no wind. Just this stillness. Inside, the room was fine. Not nice, but not gross. One queen bed with a brown patterned comforter, a scuffed up dresser, a little table with a chair that wobbled when I set my bag on it. The bathroom had one of those faded peach-colored sinks and a dim light over the mirror. Water pressure was decent. The carpet was clean enough. I locked the door behind me and slid the chain lock into place, then bolted the little deadbolt up top, the kind you can only turn from the inside. I turned on the AC unit under the window, but all it did was blow lukewarm air. Still, it made a nice white noise. I sat on the edge of the bed, kicked off my shoes, and just sat there for a second. You ever get that kind of tired where your bones hurt? Anyway, I was just about to start changing into pajamas when the landline rang. It startled me, to be honest. I hadn't even realized there was a landline in the room. The phone was one of those beige plastic ones, cord tangled around itself. The caller ID said front desk. I figured maybe he forgot to tell me something, so I picked it up. Hello? Nothing. Just silence. Not even static. I said hello again, waited a few more seconds, then hung up. I stood there for a second with the phone still in my hand, kind of weirded out, but I told myself it was just a mistake. Maybe he misdialed or the phone system glitched or something. Whatever. I hung it up, brushed my teeth, changed into a t-shirt and shorts, and got under the covers. I left the bathroom light on with the door cracked. Not because I was scared, just a habit I have when I sleep somewhere unfamiliar. The AC hummed steadily. Every once in a while, a truck would rumble past on the highway. Otherwise, it was completely still, until the phone rang again. Same caller ID, front desk. I sat up, heart suddenly pounding a little, and picked it up again. Hello? Again? No answer. I listened harder this time. Still nothing. No static, no breathing, no background sounds, just dead air. I waited almost a full minute before hanging up. This time I felt something colder, deeper in my gut. I got up, double-checked the lock and chain, and even dragged the little table in front of the door, just in case. The room felt colder all of a sudden, but maybe that was just me. The phone rang a third time. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. This time, there was something. Breathing. Not loud, not heavy, just a soft, steady inhale and exhale, right next to the receiver. I froze. My voice cracked a little when I said, "Who is this?" No answer, just that slow, deliberate breathing. I hung up hard, my hands shaking a little. I stood there, staring at the phone like it might ring again. But it didn't. Not for a while. That's when I decided to call the front desk myself. The same guy answered, sounding kind of casual and amused, like I'd caught him in the middle of watching something. Yeah. Hi, sorry, this is the woman in room 7. I keep getting calls from the front desk line, but no one says anything. The last one, someone was breathing. There was a pause, and then he kind of chuckled, like I'd asked about a bad TV signal. Oh yeah, phones are weird here, he said. Whole system's like 30 years old. We get crossed lines sometimes. Ghost calls, you know? Ghost calls? Not ghosts, he said quickly, laughing. Just glitches. Lines ring for no reason. Static. Old wiring. Don't worry about it. I tried to push a little. It's just, they keep coming from the front desk number. Yeah, it's just how the system labels them. Doesn't mean they're from here. Trust me, happens all the time. His voice was calm. Too calm. Like he wasn't surprised. Like maybe he expected this. I didn't sleep. I tried. I laid in bed with the blankets up to my chin, phone unplugged from the wall, but I kept hearing things. Little creaks, the soft whoosh of the AC, the occasional passing car. Each sound stretched out too long in my head. Then around 1 a.m. I heard it. A click. Very soft, like a key turning in a lock. My body went stiff. I stared at the door. The bolt was still turned, the chain still in place. But the handle, it jiggled. Not violently, just a slow, deliberate jiggle, like someone testing to see if it would open. I jumped out of bed and slammed my body against the door, heart racing, arms shaking. I shouted something, I don't even remember what. Probably just go away, or I'm calling the cops. The handle stopped moving. I didn't hear footsteps. No running, just quiet. I stayed pressed to the door for at least 5 minutes before I moved the table back and dialed 911. I don't know if I've ever dialed 911 that fast in my life. My fingers were shaking so hard I hit the wrong button at first and had to do it again. The operator picked up almost immediately. I told her everything, how someone had just tried to get into my room, that I was alone and that I was really scared. I remember my voice cracking. I was trying to stay calm, but my throat felt tight and I was shaking from the inside out. She told me to stay on the line and stay where I was, that officers were already nearby and she'd dispatch someone right away. I thanked her. I pushed the table back in front of the door, sat down behind it with my phone clutched in both hands, and waited. The room felt like it was holding its breath. And then, footsteps. Slow, heavy, measured footsteps. They came from the left side, near the corner of the building. They weren't rushed, they weren't trying to sneak. Whoever it was wanted me to hear them. They stopped right outside my door. No knock, no rattling, just silence. I held my breath, straining to hear anything else, but it was like he was just standing there, waiting. I didn't want to look through the peephole. I was afraid I'd see a face too close to it, like inches away. The footsteps started again, moving just a few steps to the right toward the window. I backed away out of sight and crouched behind the bed. And then nothing. No more steps, just the faint hum of the AC and that awful stretching silence. I don't know how long it lasted, maybe a minute, maybe 5. But eventually I heard the distant wail of a siren. Red and blue lights flashed faintly across the curtains. The footsteps didn't come back. 2 officers knocked on the door about 30 seconds later. I checked the peephole this time and saw their uniforms. I moved the table just enough to open the door with the chain still latched. It was a man and a woman, both in their late 30s or 40s, both looking serious but calm. The woman spoke first. You called about someone trying to break in? I nodded, opened the door all the way, and let them in. I told them everything, from the weird phone calls to the key turning in the lock to the breathing on the line. The male officer, Officer Drake, I think his name was, walked the perimeter while the female officer, Ramirez, stayed with me. She asked a lot of specific questions. Did I see anyone? Had I interacted with anyone besides the guy at the front desk? Was the door definitely locked? I told her I was 100% sure the deadbolt and chain were engaged. There was no way someone had a key unless they were trying to override the lock. Drake came back a few minutes later and said he hadn't found anyone outside, but he did notice faint scuff marks on the ground near my door, like someone had been standing there a while. That's when they asked if we could go check the security footage in the front office. We walked over together. The guy at the desk was still there, watching TV like nothing was wrong. He looked surprised to see the cops, but not panicked. Officer Ramirez explained the situation and asked if they could review the tapes from tonight. He hesitated for half a second, then said, "Yeah, sure. We got a camera out front and one in the hallway. Not the best quality, but yeah." He led us into a back room with an old monitor and a DVR setup that looked like it belonged in a thrift store. He rewound the tape manually. At first, nothing unusual. A few cars passing. Then you see me pulling in, checking in, going to my room. Nothing for a while. Then, around 12:57 a.m., just 3 minutes before I heard the key, someone steps into frame. It's the desk guy, same guy standing right next to me watching the footage. He's holding something in his hand. The image is grainy, but it looks like a key. He walks slowly to room 7. My room. He tries the knob, stops, looks up at the camera. Then he walks away. Ramirez paused the footage and turned to him. "What were you doing?" He tried to play it off. Said he thought he heard something in the hallway and went to check, that he'd had a noise complaint earlier, that he didn't want to disturb me, so he didn't knock. But his face was changing. His voice had that tight edge to it that people get when they know they're cornered. Ramirez asked if he had a master key. He said no. Drake asked again. This time, he didn't answer. Ramirez stepped out and called it in. Within 10 minutes, another squad car showed up. They arrested him on the spot. Later, the motel owner was contacted and gave permission for a full search. That's when it got worse. Turns out the guy had been working there off and on for years. Part-time night manager. Lived locally. No criminal record, but a lot of rumors. People saying he gave off a weird vibe. Guests sometimes complained about things being moved around in their rooms, personal items missing, doors that didn't feel right. During the search, they found a second set of keys hidden in the utility closet, not authorized, all rooms. And then they found something else, small hidden cameras, in 3 rooms. One was in a vent above the bathroom, one in a clock radio, one inside the little hole of a smoke detector, pointed directly at the bed. They weren't connected to Wi-Fi or anything, just little SD cards, manual setup. The guy was using them to watch guests, especially women. They think he waited until people checked in alone, watched from the monitor in the back room, and then either used the keys or slipped into rooms when he thought people were asleep. They shut the place down permanently after that. I didn't stay the night. The cops escorted me to a nearby chain hotel. I didn't sleep much, just lay there under the covers, staring at the door, listening for clicks, for breathing. Every time I stay in a hotel now, I wedge a chair under the doorknob. I pack a rubber doorstop in my bag. I check the vents, the smoke detectors, the clocks, and I haven't picked up a motel landline since. I was lucky. That's what the cops kept saying. That I was lucky, I reacted fast, that I made noise, that I called for help. But if I'd been just a little more tired, if I hadn't gotten up when I heard the key, who knows? That's it for today's tale from Shivering Vault. If you have a story worth sharing, drop it in the comments or send it our way. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your fellow thrill seekers. As always, the Shivering Vault thanks you for unlocking today's tale. Until next time, the vault awaits your return.